Hello everyone, this is Nate from Sitelutions, and today I will be walking you through how to set up your own DNS records. Now, if you don't know the DNS records, that's alright, because DNS records are basically mapping files that tell the DNS server which IP address each domain is associated with and how to handle requests sent to each domain. So when someone visits a website, a request is sent to the DNS server and then forwarded to the web server provided by a web hosting company. Which then contains the data contained on the site. So the first type of record I'm going to explain how to set up is an A record. An A record points a domain or a subdomain to a specific IP address. So when you enter a domain into your browser, the A record for that domain will be looked up and you will see what is returned from that IP address. So I'm going to go to the URL in DNS Control Center. So when setting up an A record, there's really two ways of going about it. And the first way is to just click on the DNS Wizard button here. And this will bring you to a kind of automated process that walks you through how to set it up through a program. So you can see assign an A record, but that's not what I'm going to do today. Today, I'll mainly be using the advanced configuration in DNS. And this will let you see all the different records that you have options to. And as you can see, the www subdomain already has an A record pointing to the Sitelutions Space account. And this is because when you register with a Sitelutions Space account, it automatically configures the A records for you. So if you have a Sitelutions Space account, then you don't need to worry about setting up an A record. But if you don't have an account, then let's just say that I have a subdomain, and even if you do have an account and you want to run it from a different server, which I'm about to make an example of, if I have a subdomain called Nate Home and I want it to run from a server at my house, I can add this as a host. And now it's been successfully made as a subdomain, and I'll go to advanced configuration in DNS and I'll go to A records, and as you can see there's nothing under here unlike the www one. So I'll click add record. So here I'm going to enter in the IP address of the server at my house. So I'm just going to do 1.2.3.4, and on the right here is the TTL, or time to live. And this is basically the amount of seconds that determines how long a resolver is supposed to cache the DNS query before the query expires and a new one needs to be done. So in this case, it would be 21,600 seconds. So if I tried to minimize that to, like, say 10 seconds, I can click continue. And it says that my membership level allows a minimum TTL of at least 21,600 seconds. So if I was running a serious website and I was getting a lot of traffic, I would definitely consider upgrading my membership level. And you can see here that the DNS minimum TTL varies between each membership level. So the highest one has a TTL of 5 seconds, which is just insanely fast. But for now, I'm going to follow the rules and stick with 21,600 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue, and I'm going to click finish. And now I can see that under natehome.webspy.us, there is a new A record created for 1.2.3.4. So if you ping this address in your console, it should return 1.2.3.4, because that's the IP address that the Sitelutions name servers are pointing this address to. And if you actually are running this server from your house, it's most likely that your internet service provider will provide you with a dynamic IP address, and you would need to have an Insiders Club membership with premium DNS for this setup to work. So just keep that in mind if you're planning on doing something similar to this with your own account. All right, so now let's move on to MX records. An MX record allows you to route mail according to your preference, and the MX record itself specifies which server is responsible for receiving emails on behalf of your domain. So if I go to the URL in DNS Control Center, I will be able to select the domain that I'd like to create the MX record for. And I'm going to stick with webspy.us, and I will be using the root domain for the MX record. meaning that the address that people use to send me mail will be user@webspy.us. And you normally wouldn't need to create an MX record for any other subdomain, because if I created one for, say, natehome.webspy.us, people would send me mail at user@natehome.webspy.us, which just isn't normal at all. So I'll go ahead and click Advanced Configuration and DNS on the root domain. So if I go under MX records, I can see that there's one already set up, which is currently pointing to mail to my Sitelutions space account. When I was configuring my space account, I chose this domain as my primary domain. So I had an MX record created automatically and pointed to my space account. Now, if you plan on hosting with Sitelutions, this is a great and easy way to handle your mail. But for the sake of this example, I'm going to delete this MX record so that I can show you how to create a new one. So now it's deleted, and let's say that I want to host my mail with Google, which is a popular service that people use. I would click Add Record, and I'd enter in the name of the Google server that I would be given. So I'll just use example.google.com as my mail server. And it's important to always leave a dot at the end of the name, or else the MX record won't be created properly. So once you do that, I'll leave the TTL at 21,600 seconds. And lastly, I need to set my MX preference. And the MX preference is a number that determines the priority of the mail server. So the lower the number is, the higher priority it is. And it can't be 0, but I'm going to make this a high priority server and give it a 1. So now I'll click Done. And I'll confirm all that. Now see that the MX record has been created successfully, and that means that all the mail sent to webspy.us will be stored on the mail server that I specified in the record, which in this case is example.google.com. And I can create as many MX records as I want, and it's probably good to have more than one so that if this one went down, I would have another one backing it up. So if I created another MX record with the MX level of 5, that record or that server would never receive mail unless this server went down. And since 5 is higher than 1, that would be the next server to back it up. So that's how you create an MX record. All right, so let's move on to the final type of record that I will be talking about in this video, which is CNAME records. Now, a CNAME record is used to point a domain or a subdomain to another host name. And it's important to note that CNAME records create a complete copy of all DNS records for the host name or fully qualified domain name that you are pointing to. And this includes MX and other records. So as you can see under my domain, webspy.us, I have a docs host, and then I have a documents host name. And I want the docs subdomain to have the exact same content as the document subdomain. So if one of my users types in docs.webspy.us, I want them to see what's on the documents subdomain. So what I'll do is I'll do advanced configuration. I'll go down to CNAME records, and I'll add a record, and I'll do documents dot webspy.us. Whoops. And remember to always include the dot afterwards. And I'll show you what happens if you don't put the dot. It'll actually give you a warning and say that this is the destination that will be specified if you don't leave the dot in. So I'm going to go back and put the dot back. And there you go. So now when you type in docs.webspy.us, it'll take you to the page that says the content that's on documents.webspy.us. And that is the basics of how to create a CNAME record. So there are a few other types of records like TXT records and NS records, but these are the main 3 that you'll be using: A records, CNAME records, and MX records. And you can edit them and delete them as you wish. And that's pretty much the basics of it all. So I hope everything made sense to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at support@sitelutions.com.